Hello guys, welcome to the review for Elder Scrolls Blades. Now, before we get in, there's not going to be too many spoilers, purely because we're going to be talking about the early access and how it was. I got to play early access on it and basically got to go in and play as much as I wanted. So, as always, we'll start with the pros. So, the pros of the game. So, it's very lore friendly. Things are pretty well kept in order for as far as I can tell. I haven't seen anything that's too game breaking. You get to learn more about the lore, and I hopefully get to do some videos about the lore itself. So I'm looking forward to doing that. It's an interesting game. You are kind of thrown into this new world that you get to explore. I have a feeling it's Cyrodiil, or like the border between Cyrodiil and Skyrim. I'm not too sure, but it's an interesting scenario at least, and the story is good enough. You're a blade, and basically you're trying to rebuild your city, or rebuild your town, and deal with everything that's been going on with the occupying forces of the higher forces above you, like the Blood Queen, or the Bloodfall Queen, sorry. So, it's very interesting in that note. The dungeons model is cool. I like going into dungeons and being able to go in and loot and fight your way into that. That model is cool. Kind of reminds me of what was in the earlier Elder Scrolls games. The town building is fun. I enjoy the town building a lot. I kind of like the concept of you being the champion of this town and you building it up and bringing it back to glory. I do appreciate that. That will come into something that will need work, right? But that will be a different section we'll cover later in the video. You have interesting characters. There are a lot of new interesting characters that are in here that are helping you, that are part of your kind of quests, I guess. I don't know how to really call it. Part of the storyline, and they're really interesting. They're worthy of note, and that I think that's a good part of the game as well. And I like the concept that you're a blade that survived the Great War, that you're basically going in and controlling this character pretty well and being able to show off, and yet you have to hide at the same time for the Thalmor, because it's right after the Great War, so the Thalmor are looking for the blades and have killed most of the blades. So it'd be interesting to see if we can see people we know that survived. I don't know if we'll see Delphine or Esborn, or if we're maybe even see Fulheim and see if we get confirmed that he's a blade, or even that, I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but in Skyrim you go into one of the dungeons and you find a sword of a blade. It'd be cool if you even found him, and maybe you find out how he dies actually. Him or her, I don't remember exactly. It'd be cool to see any of that, really. Maybe even Tyr, confirm whether or not he lives or dies. But basically, there's a lot of positives of this game. In terms of the negatives, we're gonna go into the cons now. It is very repetitive gameplay. I know I watched Imperial Knowledge's review of this. He enjoyed the gameplay a lot, he did, and I respect that, and I do like the gameplay, with the exception that it's very repetitive. It's the same dungeons, it's the same few dungeons you go into. There's not a lot of diversity in that, and I'm hoping they expand upon that. In terms of what I mean by the combat's repetitive, it's not a lot of diversity in terms of what you're able to do. You can use your one-handed or two-handed weapons, and then your magics. You can't really even be a mage to that point, to that extent. You can't just like shoot fire out of your hands as your weapon. There are abilities and perks you can use in combat, kind of like ESO. It remind me of. That's the best I could describe it. The microtransactions aren't too bad. They're not shoved in your face. There a couple times they'll pop up, be like, "Hey, buy this if you want this." The one thing and the reason it's such a, in my opinion, it's a con, I did see on Reddit that they were selling Daedric artifacts, and that's something I don't think you should be able to sell. Granted, it is a free game, I get it, you gotta make money somehow, and I think the system is set up very well, with the exception of a few things that, you know, players would want, and selling that, I think it's a little lucrative, I guess, and a little demeaning towards players, because I seen it was Malagball's mace, and they were selling that for like 400 to 600 crystals. So I get it. You have to make money on a game. You've put a lot of work and it is free. But at the same time, I don't appreciate that. I don't feel like that was needed. Um, Another thing is I would like to know where we are in particular, because I have a feeling it's in Cyrodiil or Skyrim, like that border area, but I'm not too sure. And then what exact time are we at? It's roughly right after, I would say maybe a few months after the Great War. That's my estimation. That is probably a few months after the Great War. But overall, I just don't really know what time frame it is and how that will impact the storyline, because if it's fresh, if it's fresh off the Great War, you know that you are going to be hunted by the Thalmor because you are a blade, and that they're going to be going after you with all they got. However, if it's roughly a few years after, I feel like that the resources that they're diverting into hunting blades have gone down, and so you don't really have to hide your identity as much. You have to hide it, obviously, but you won't have to go to such extents to hide it and to stay a secret from the Thalmor. Now, the story progression too, the only issue I have with the story progression is that it's tied to your town building. So you can't progress in the story unless your town is a certain level. That can get a little annoying. My first issue with it reached, I reached it, I think, yesterday, a couple days ago, when I was trying to do a mission, but my town had to be level 3, so I had to wait and build something and build my city up, and then wait till it got to level 3. So transferring into things that need work, that will improve the game, that will basically are in the middle between pros and cons, that things I believe can be really good if they improved upon it. So basically the resource system, and I fully understand having to gather resources to build your town up. However, the missions you do have very, very little reward. I go in, I spend 10-15 minutes doing a mission, and I get 15 to 18 lumber, and I need 150 lumber to go build one building in particular. Or I need somewhere between 70 and 100 limestone. Yet every time I get a mission, I get a reward for a thing that has limestone. It'll be 10 to 13 limestone. Like, that's very, very annoying. It's very grindy, and I'm not really trying to play a grinding phone or a grinding mobile game. If I wanted to play a grind game, I'd go on a console or a PC and play it. I don't really feel like having to grind on my phone. That's a lot of annoyance there, and you don't even produce your own stuff. I would appreciate if you could produce your own resources like lumber, steel, things like that, iron. Maybe have hunters go out and gather furs. Having to sit here and do missions over and over and over again to gather resources, and you don't even get to produce them, I think is kind of a hindrance on that. That kind of transfers over into job diversity. So usually you get one weekly job, one daily job, and then 4 jobs in the job board that kind of circulate through. As you do one, another will come up, another will come up. There's not a lot of jobs diversity in terms of rewards, so you either get gold, lumber, or like limestone. Those are the most I've seen. I've seen a couple where you find equipment, which in my opinion I don't think is something to be super happy about. I mean, usually the equipment's pretty low. I'm wearing steel armor right now, and it'll be something hide, and I don't need hide, obviously, so it's kind of a waste of a slot in your job board, because you really need the lumber, the resources to build. So that's kind of annoying. The difficulty, and the only reason I have to say this, is the difficulty is kind of, again, tied to your story progression. It gets really, really hard, that it forces you to keep grinding things out, to level up and to do things and to keep going, to produce to become strong enough to do something. And my only issue is that if you go with Skyrim, that's just the one I could say fresh off my head. Your story progression is kind of tied through your own level. You could play the entire story without playing any of the side quests or anything, and it will work. I've done it. You don't have to worry about anything like that. So I kind of wish they would tone down the difficulty, especially make it more tied to your level. And I get having the level having level recommendations and everything like that, but it hinders the game to the point where like I sit there and it's like I don't want to go out and grind out 15 missions to level up maybe 2 or 3 times. And I guess that's tied to your town building. Like, hey, they have to do 15 missions to get all their resources to build their town, and they also need it to level up. So it's perfect, because when the time they're done, they have their city leveling up, they themselves have leveled up, and that they could go and progress through the story. Well, I don't want to have to stop my story every other mission to go and progress through the level system. I want to be able to just play the storyline, and I don't really like that I have to stop and continuously do that. Another thing the last thing I think here that needs work, right, is the chest system. And the chest system I think is actually done pretty well. I think the only thing, okay, so you have wooden chests, silver chests, and gold chests. So the wooden chests take 5 seconds to open, which at that point I get it's like only 5 seconds, so it's like, alright, why, that's fine. Where I had my issue with that is, if it's 5 seconds long, why not just make it open immediately? Like, when I have 10 wooden chests and I have to sit there for 5 seconds each and do that, I get it's only 5 seconds. It is only 5 seconds. But it's like, at that point, if it's only going to be 5 seconds, why have the timer on it? So, I mean, if it's changed, I don't care. If not, it's fine too. That's just something I think, why, if it's only going to be 5 seconds, why do you have a timer on it? That's the only thing I have with it. Silver chests take 3 hours to open, and I kind of play the game on and off anyway. Thanks to my schedule, I can't sit there and grind out 3 hours at a time, so it's not really a hindrance that I get silver chests. And I could kind of just turn them on, and I go work a 3-4 hour shift, come back, one chest is open. I didn't have to sit there and play the game anyway, or sit there and wait for the chest to open to clear some chest slots. I just had to sit there and go to work and come back, and it was done. That's fine. Gold chests you don't get too often, but when you do, they take 6 hours to open. Usually I just put them on when I go to sleep, and I wake up and they're open. So that's fine as well. I don't have any issue with those. Really, I think my only thing that I recommend that needs work is kind of just the wooden chest thing. That's the only thing I think that bothers me out of that. And maybe make better loot. The loot you get, I would say maybe the wooden chests have be more resource based, and they are, but you get like anywhere from like 5 to 10 resources, so it's not too much in terms of resources you get. Maybe better armor and stuff from things, or like maybe better enchantments that you could get, and better enchanted armor you get from it. I would appreciate that. But other than that, it's the only recommendation I have with the chests. Overall, though, I don't really have too many issues with the game. If I had to rate the game, actually, before we go into rate, let's talk about the graphics. The graphics are actually pretty damn good. For a mobile game, it actually runs very, very, very well. There's some frame rate lag, and there's some, I guess, mobile lag. I don't know how you would pronounce, like, have console lag, but it's some mobile lag, mobile phone console lag kind of thing. Some of that, and then there's some frame rate issues, but overall, it runs very well on my phone. It runs very, very well. I have zero issues with that. But overall, yeah, I really think that it's done pretty well, and if I had to rate it out of 10, obviously, I honestly would give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a fun game. It's not a game I'm obsessed with, but it's a game that I would love to go in and play. And I don't know, and a lot of the Call of Duty matches I've been playing, and a lot of the videos I've been making, I've actually been sitting there in between times playing Blades. And if in the video you see me start it with, oh shit, I gotta put down Blades, like, that's really how it is for me. I'll pull it up and play a mission in between a game and things like that. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been doing that with like a lot of games I've been playing. If I have to get through a cutscene, I'll just sit there and pull up Blades and play it. It is a fun game, and it's a very average game at that point. And so I think if they make improvements, it can go up and it'll be a game I really, really just can't stop putting down. But at this point, it is one of those games I can't stop putting down. So I think a 7.5 out of 10 is perfect for it. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree or disagree? Do you think that there are things that I thought were good that are bad, or bad that are good? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.